Welcome to Sports Talk with Steve Jones, the daily talk show with the voice of Penn State football and men's basketball. You never know what special guest may stop on by any given day. Now here's the man of the hour, Mr. Steve Jones.
Well, great to be with you. And since it is Coaches versus Cancer Week, I'm glad you wore that T-shirt today. You have no idea that it matched up for today, but
No. This is one of the best weekends of the year, no question.
Everybody knows.
Yeah,
somebody,
absolutely.
Whether it's relation,
it's an emotional weekend,
friend,
without question.
It's just. But the number of survivors has grown over the years.
Yes.
Which is tremendous. But at the same time, there are also people that were lost in the past year. So, it's an emotional time, and this is a great fundraiser. And so much of the money stays locally. Which is really important to remember. And they'll have the reception tonight at Medler Field, Lebrano Park, and then out of the golf course tomorrow. And should be a fun time. Looking forward to it. Let's get to the TV part. This is the big day, by the way, because we're going to find out multiple game times and so forth. We'll start with this. Penn State, West Virginia is going to be noon at on Fox. But again, I think I told you that 2 weeks ago, didn't I? Yeah. I don't know if I said it on here. I don't think I did.
No,
but I told you 2 weeks ago it was going to be a noon game.
Yeah.
After that, we'll see what other ones get picked for today. And it should be this afternoon. It's going to be after this is over with.
Yeah.
Look, the old days of games being at 1:30, which is always the preferred time. Plenty of time to tailgate before and after the game. Those days are gone. Yeah. Your windows now are noon, 3:30, 7:30, 10:30 on Saturdays, and, of course, Friday night games and some Thursday games mixed in. That's what happens when you have contracts this big. My biggest complaint over the years has not been the noon starts.
No.
All right, noon starts happen. That's all right. I mean, again, none of this bothers me in any way, shape, or form, because my job is to show up, be on the air with Jack Ham 90 minutes before kickoff and go from there. My concern is always about the fans. And a lot of fans get very like, noon. Somebody actually asked me earlier this week what if I had my preference. I said, well, at home I like 3:30. And I said on the road I like noon. They said, why do you like noon on the road? I said, because they're back home earlier. That's the reason.
Yeah, 3:30 be my preferred, but I don't.
Basketball game, noon. I mean, goodness gracious. And then, I did a game this past year. Dick and I did a game at Iowa that started at 9 Eastern time. We got back so late. It was during the week, too. We got back so early in the morning. Like,
Yeah.
But, so somebody said, why do you like noon games? Well, on the road I do. They're like, yeah, but my day. I'm like, your day? I said, you asked me. I said, I like the idea of getting home earlier. Then, of course, you always get the usual nonsense, why doesn't Penn State get off to great starts at noon and things like that. It's like, come on. Welcome to the world of sports mythology. I always love that. But these networks pay a lot of money.
Sure.
There's no ABC ESPN deal anymore for the Big Ten. It's Fox, CBS, NBC, and then, of course, the rest to BTN. Okay. And that's the way it is. And now you just go from there. It's not the part I don't like, which I've said many, many times, and it should be absolutely flushed, and that is the 6-day window.
I hate it. Yeah, I absolutely hate it, and it's a slap in the face of the fans.
I don't think there were any last year, were there? That was the first year of the contract. I don't think there were any last year. I don't think there were any last year.
That,
in negotiating, that's something I would have demanded.
Mm-hmm. Get rid of the 6-day window.
I would have demanded no 6-day window.
Yeah, I don't think there were any.
I don't think there were any 6-day windows last year. That always infuriated me.
There was one, Indiana. But that was it.
Indiana was?
Yeah, because it was determined with the... I think it was the Indiana game because of the Ohio... It was either the game after the Ohio State game, which was Indiana, or the game after the Michigan game, which was... It was the Rutgers. It was Rutgers. Yeah, that was a 6-day window.
Okay.
Yeah, because they were waiting to see who won that game so they could put the network. But that was the only one that I remember.
Right. I mean, that always infuriates me.
Yeah. Yeah, same here.
I don't...
Slap in the face of the fans. And the schools have nothing to do with it. Making it very clear, the schools have nothing to do with it.
I show up when they tell me to show up. So
same here. We're going to be there no matter what. Right. But it's the fans that got to prepare.
But the fans have to prepare. I'm sorry. Don't make this so complicated. Because it's not. Okay?
No.
As I've always said, complicated. Manhattan Project. Okay? That's a 10. Okay, right about a 1 or less than is what time a kickoff should be. Okay, it's not that complicated, and they should do. Okay, the Big Ten should be doing what the NFL does.
I was going to say if the NFL could pick a game ahead of time, the college football certainly can. Period.
They should all do a show. They should do a show. Do it on BTN. Showing what time each week games are going to be and go from there. And then allow to have the final 3 weekends be flex weekends, but the flex weekends would have to be announced 12 days ahead of time. I mean, the NFL flexes games, right? They flex a game. Right? They flex a game.
Yeah.
And you can do that. You can have the whole schedule out there, for goodness sakes. All right? And allow 3 flex or 2 flex weekends. How about that? 2.
Yeah.
All right, down the stretch, 2. Oh, the last weekend of the season, you want Iowa to play Nebraska on Black Friday. That hasn't been announced yet, but we all know that's going to be. Because both Iowa and Nebraska want to play on Black Friday. They want to. And it's turned into a nice traditional game. Last year, what was it? The over and under was 24 on that game or something like that.
Yeah.
And the game, in the first half, the game was tied 10-10.
Mm-hmm.
So we're getting ready to go over to Ford Field to do the game with Penn State and Michigan State. Then I texted Jack. I says, wow. I said, they've got 20 in the first half. And lo and behold, they only had 1 field goal in the second half, got to 23, made the under. Only Iowa can do that. So that's what they're going to do. That's what they should do. I mean, that's what they should do. Is they should do a show around it. But again, the 6-day thing is something that should be done away with.
I agree.
It's not that. Okay, I'm not saying scheduling's easy. I didn't say that.
No.
Okay? But at the same time, they make it seem like it is the most complicated thing on the face of the earth as a TV network. Like, well, we need a 6-day window. To do what? Well, you couldn't figure out 5 days ago which was the good game? Hey, come on. I mean, I can get a group of people in the room. We're done. Yeah.
Yeah, and the criticism that Fox takes for the big noon kick is, I think, sometimes a little bit unjustified. Number one, the old saying, "Oh, nobody cares about big noon." Well, the ratings tell me otherwise, so there's no question about that. But the other part of it is, you look at the games announced today, Clemson and Georgia. Probably argue one of the biggest games of the week, August 31st. That game's kicking off at 12 noon, and Fox doesn't have that game.
No, that's right.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
That's an
I think.
ESPN game.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but there's another game that day, right?
Yeah.
On the 31st?
Yeah, trying to think
that ESPN has.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of who ESPN has, and I know Michigan's at night that night.
Because they'll take the U.S. Open and they'll move it to ESPN 2 or whatever. That's the tennis championship.
Yeah. I'm trying to think.
There was another game that's forcing them to do it. Is Notre Dame playing somebody?
Is it Notre Dame? Is it Notre Dame Texas A&M that week?
Could be.
And I want to say that's.
So, yeah. And they make it out to be, because people should know the plan their lives here. I'll never understand why they don't do the entire schedule ahead of time.
No, I'm the same way. I feel the same way.
With flex options like the NFL does. I mean, you can flex a game. I have no problem if you flex a game. People are, hey, we're going to flex it. Now, as for Fox taking noon, Fox went for a long period of time, and they were competing head-to-head with ESPN in all sorts of time slots. And ESPN kept winning all the time slots. Then Fox was able to put a couple of games at noon that were bigger games. And guess what happened? They won the time slot. So now what happens is, on a consistent basis, and this is over and over and over again, Fox wins the noon time slot. They win it.
Yeah.
Which is what they want.
They want it, sure.
And they want their advertisers want.
Absolutely.
In other words, what game is going to get you the most eyeballs? Okay. If, for example, it had panned out where Fox was able to win the 3:30 time slot, they would have started putting all their big games at 3:30. But they didn't. Okay, what if they won the 7:30 time slot? Well, they would have put all their big games at 7:30, and then CBS and NBC would have been fighting over noon and 3:30 as to what, because Fox would have taken that time slot. But what happened was they ended up moving a couple of big games to noon, and they got the ratings.
Mm-hmm. Huge ratings.
Right? Well, that's why they do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? I mean, that's why they put big noon kickoff, because that's the one they kept consistently winning, and they looked and made an executive decision and said, you know what, we ought to keep doing this. Look, I'm sorry. As a business, that's their job.
Mm-hmm.
That's their job.
Sure.
Right? That's why they make that decision. Does it infuriate fans, about the noon kickoff and so forth? Yeah, it makes people mad. And look, it's not as bad here as it is in the Midwest.
Not anywhere close.
Remember, big noon kickoff in the Midwest is 11 a.m. Okay? Hey, we're going to do big noon kickoff at Iowa.
We're going to 9 a.m. at the Arizona State USC a couple of years ago.
Yeah, they're not going to do that with this.
No, they're not going to do it, period. They're not. Well, they already said they're not doing the Big Ten. I don't think they're doing it ever again. And that was a little bit of a failure.
But say, for example, Nebraska with Matt Rule gets to be really good, and they've got a big game, say, with Michigan, right? And the game is at Lincoln. Well, guess what? Big noon kickoff means it's 11 a.m. there.
Yeah.
Right? So it's not as bad here as it is there.
Yeah. Ohio State, Nebraska is potentially one there, too.
Yeah.
This year. You have two biggest fan bases? Absolutely.
So I understand the complaint about it because look, it does create a funnel of traffic coming in.
There's no question. That is one thing that I think is very...
And not as much tailgate time.
No.
That I understand. Tailgate time after the game, especially early this season.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
plenty.
There's a lot of post-tailgate time that you can just really kick back and enjoy, especially now it's a little chillier today.
Mm-hmm.
But like take tomorrow and Saturday, for example. Well, in September, you're going to have days like this where it's going to be in the 70s.
Absolutely.
And it's going to be nice. So it doesn't.
No, and I think.
But road games? Somebody said, West Virginia's at noon. Good.
What do you mean? West Virginia's at noon? That's a very, very good thing.
Over here in the back. I mean, you know how many times I've been at West Virginia for a night game?
No, yeah.
It's like, okay. Remember, I go back a ways. Okay? So I was there.
I will say, any Penn State fan that says, West Virginia's at noon, just think about what you said. Just think.
My goodness.
Yeah, no, you want that game. And if you're a Penn State fan, you are pumping your fist about this game time. Absolutely. There's no question you want this game at noon if you're Penn State.
No doubt.
There's
no doubt.
Yeah. And that's, by the sounds of it, toughest ticket in a long time for Nittany Lion fans, is what I was told. A lot of rejections.
Yeah.
By the ticket office I had heard. So this is going to be a tough ticket for the fans.
I'm trying to think. Penn State, I think, gets like 4,000 tickets.
Yeah, it's a small stadium, too. That's the other part.
60,000 seats.
Yep. Yeah. So that's the other part of it. But, it should be interesting. I think I think you're very happy with the noon kick if you're Penn State, without question. Mount Morgantown is not a fun place to be in the evening. Sorry, West Virginia, but it just isn't.
Well, that's if you're an opposing fan. Yeah.
That's
so.
But yeah,
that's step one. But it looks like
we'll have a couple more coming up later on today. It sounds like so.
Right around 1:30, I think is when we're going to start really letting it flow out. 1:30 this afternoon.
Yeah.
We did a lot yesterday. We're going to have Tony Knopp on the show tomorrow.
Nice.
We're going to talk about private equity tomorrow. Again, the reason we are talking about private equity is that has been proposed by some across the country as a possible financial solution with the latest decision. Now, again, remember the next step is that the settlement has to go back to Judge Claudia Wilkin in California. And look, it sounds like they've crossed the T's, dotted the I's. It's only a 13-page document. And something tells me she'll give the thumbs up to it, and then it'll go from there. And then starting in the fall of 2025, and the number is, okay, I've been talking 20 million. The number is 22 million in the end that Penn State will have to come up with. And that's what you have to come up with. Now, there are certain things that are going to happen. All right. One of them is you already have cost of attendance in there. But now that number is just going to be rolled into this number. So, all right, now if you're rolling that number into this number, that eliminates about 4 million. So now you got to come up with 18 million because it's going to be rolled in. Which then brings to the next part. Right? The advertising part of it, you're just going to have to get used to it. And believe me, you will have people that should Penn State decide to go with, like the pros, patch on the jersey, right? There will be people that will be up in arms about this.
Oh, sure.
Right?
No
for a year. After that, no. I think it'll just quietly just go away and be accepted and move on. Because, look, as you're watching the game, you're sitting in the stands, you are not going to see the patch on the jersey.
No, you won't even know it's there until you watch it on television.
Right. Now on TV, different.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, no question. That is a different ball game. That's why you sell it. You sell it for the TV part of it. You sell it for the exposure part of it. And that's what you're looking to get out of it. And
Yep.
And, the NBA does it. Major League Baseball
Sure.
does it. The NHL. I'm watching the Edmonton-Dallas game last night. And they've got it right there in the helmet. I think what the Dallas Stars are 7-11 or something like that. Yeah.
They are. Yep.
Yeah. Well, that's fine. And that's, I have no, we're at that point now.
There's no doubt.
Okay, we're at that point. You can go about this a couple of ways. You can go back and you can take ticket prices and fly them through the sky. You can take, go to donors and go, hey, we need way more. You can do all that stuff. Okay? Or you can come up with a different way of doing it. Okay? Well, the different way of doing it is, a corporate partnership dealing with the jerseys. That's one. And do you then go private equity? Now, the reason I went with Red Lobster yesterday is it shows that private equity, the point of it was, it is not the be-all, end-all. You have to make sure that private equity gets what they want out of it. That's one, because they have to. I mean, if they're going to invest their money, what do they get out of it? Okay? Number two, on your side, it's obvious what you get out of it. You're getting the cash. But you also have to be steadfast that you are the one that maintains control. And Red Lobster lost control. Now, as a company, the reason they lost control would be different than a college. A university would be sitting there, and they're not going to be bought out by somebody else and change up the whole thing. That's not going to happen. In Red Lobster's case, they were owned at one point by General Mills, owned at one point by Darden, owned at one point by Golden Gate, and then finally, so with all the ownership changes, the percentages kept changing, and finally, Thai Union ended up getting from 49%, actually started getting control of the situation. That's not going to happen with the university. They're not going to be sold out, right? As much as you have tried over the years to.
That's right.
It's such a shyster.
Well, I'll tell you, it's the effort that counts.
And look, you got a T-shirt out of it.
That's right. That's right.
So, but that is what.
Yeah.
Okay. That, in the end, is the difference between an entity like Red Lobster and a university, okay? Or a university athletic department. That's the difference between the two entities. But I wanted to at least show in the Red Lobster case that it is not the white knight. Everyone thinks, it's the white knight. Okay. Redbird has invested. Redbird is invested. They have a part of the Penguins. They have a part of the Red Sox. They have a part of Liverpool. They have a part of AC Milan. Liverpool's been successful. AC Milan continues to be successful. The Red Sox have fallen back, and the Penguins, because of age, have fallen back. The Red Sox were steadfast. Well, we need to cut back on salary. Well, they're driving their fans nuts with this. I mean, what's the use of having private equity if you're not spending it? Now, we all know what they're trying to do with it. We all know. Hey, you have to be simply a fool not to realize what they're trying to do here. John Henry and company, in conjunction with Redbird, are trying to get the NBA expansion franchise in Las Vegas. I got it. Okay. All right. It's like Josh Harris owning the Sixers, the Commanders, and the Devils. He owns 3 teams. You're a silent partner.
Well, yeah.
I know you don't like to.
I'll tell you.
I know you don't like to brag.
That's why I've completely eliminated the trust the process and just believe. That's all.
It must have been hard for you to be a part owner of the Commanders, being such a 49er fan.
Yes. Yes, it's difficult owning any kind of NFL team. It's difficult in any way for that reason. And I get kicked out of the owner's box December 31st because I'm cheering for the 49ers and I'm in the Commander's owner's box. It's not good. It wasn't a good look.
Remember when Art Modell moved the Browns to Baltimore to become the Ravens?
Yeah.
And he was talking about his financial problems with the Browns. How in the heck do you lose money on an NFL team?
It's impossible. It's impossible.
You must be the most mismanaged organization on the
You have
planet.
to be awful. There is no way.
Money on an NFL team.
No. Yeah, absolutely no way you do. And fans are, even when you absolutely antagonize and make fans irate, they still come. You still make money. There is no way. I have no idea. And that's a heck of a myth. There's no question about it. But they did, to Cleveland Browns fans' credit, they made a nice rhyme for Art Modell. You can't say it on the air here, but they did create a nice rhyme for Art Modell over the years.
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. Yeah. Well, the guy that wrote this article about what are the best fits for the ACC schools if it breaks up.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so it's going to be a crazy 2 years. Okay, so this is what he put down. It was on Tar Heels Wire. Okay. And does it say who wrote it? No, it doesn't say who wrote it. So he's saying about the Big Ten and the SEC. Summer months await, and like years past, it'll get more and more interesting for the Atlantic Coast Conference. They have watched both the Big Ten and the SEC add top-tier programs that have made, while they made 3 additions starting in 2024. He says, with more buzz that programs like Clemson, Florida State, and potentially North Carolina want out, the future of the conference is up in the air. So last week we looked at the football programs in the conferences and which ones are the best fit for the Big Ten and the SEC. So let's run them down. This is what he wrote. If some of this happens, I'll sit there and go, you got to be kidding me. Duke, best fit, Big Ten.
Big Ten. Oh, that would be incredible.
Virginia, best fit. This is his opinion.
Yeah.
Big Ten.
Big Ten.
North Carolina, best fit, Big Ten. NC State, best fit, SEC. Now, I'm not going to go into his reasoning and all this.
No.
Wake Forest, best fit, SEC.
Yeah.
Well, I can see them jumping up and down in the SEC offices right now. Hey, all right, we got Wake Forest.
Got the Demon Deacon.
This is great. We got Wake Forest.
We got a mascot to compete with Big Al.
Oh, goodness gracious. No. All right. Next up, Miami, best fit, SEC.
SEC. Yeah, I agree with that one, actually.
Pitt, best fit, SEC. All right. Pitt has a big TV market that would bring with them a presence on the East Coast.
I was going to say that presence on the that's where I was thinking.
Penn State being in the Big Ten already.
Yep.
Clemson, best fit.
See, there I'd go Big Ten.
SEC.
I'd go Big Ten there.
Again,
I think they could.
Remember,
I think
they are not an AAU
not
school.
an AAU school. Yeah,
right? Is that the be all end all?
No, I think it's a big part of it.
Okay,
I've said that how many times now.
But
I think
it
it's
is a
big part of it.
discussion point around
Absolutely.
the table. Okay, it is a discussion point around
especially
the table.
for them and Florida State.
I didn't say it was the be all end all. Syracuse, best fit, Big Ten. Virginia Tech, best fit.
I don't know about Syracuse.
SEC. No, this is his opinion.
Yeah.
He's taking the entire conference.
Yeah, absolutely.
Florida State, best fit.
Well, if it's not AAU accredited, you're gonna say SEC here, I assume.
SEC.
Yeah.
And in fact, he writes, quote, "This is an easy one." Really? He said, the SEC makes the most sense for the Seminoles in basketball and football. The Big Ten hasn't found a way to expand to the state of Florida yet, and I don't think it's happening anytime soon. Okay.
See, that's where I disagree with Syracuse. I think it's found an easy way to expand into those markets. They don't need Syracuse. That's
okay. Notre Dame, best fit.
Got to be the Big Ten.
Big Ten.
Yeah, there's no question about
Georgia Tech, best fit. SEC.
that.
See, I actually believe because of the Atlanta market, Georgia Tech will be sought after by both conferences.
I agree, but I think you have that Atlanta market already with Georgia.
Right. Louisville, best fit. Big Ten.
Probably just because of, again, I think you have that market in the SEC already with Kentucky.
The three newcomers to the conference might be a bit of a pickle. So they are in the first year in the ACC and are entering at a very interesting time. Personally, all three wouldn't have fit in either conference, although maybe Stanford could go to the Big Ten. That's what he writes. The Stanford thing cracks me up all the time.
Yeah, it's.
No,
I think.
Let's be honest with you. Okay, when it comes to football and basketball,
nobody cares.
In my opinion, they're not trying hard.
No. You go back to 2016, 2017, I think you have a little bit of a better argument for Stanford. I think you're at a peak there. You're coming off a quarterback that was picked number 1. You're coming off one of the best running backs I've seen in college football, and he's obviously. So I think you have a little bit of a brand there, and you've just extended your coach. I think you've got argument. You've got a brand. After that, no, it's just not been. It's not been the same for every sport at Stanford, really pre-pandemic, post-pandemic. I don't. Since about 2017. So not. It's great academically. Don't get me wrong. I'll never discredit that. But no, if you're asking me of the three newcomers, do they have the biggest brand of the three? Yes, but that's not saying much.
They got tons of money.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, their endowment number?
Yeah, huge.
Gigantic. I don't know.
I don't either. It's.
But, okay, remember, when the 49ers played the Dolphins in the Super Bowl at Stanford
Stadium, yeah.
That stadium sat 90,000 people. They don't have that anymore.
No.
Okay, what does the stadium seat? 35, 40,000?
Yeah, not even. Yeah.
Right? 35, 40,000? Yep. Yeah. And Cal? Are you kidding me? Okay, nobody wants Cal. Right? In terms of like
Penn State, Big Ten has got the California market locked now with what they've gotten.
Right.
They don't need Cal at all.
Now SMU has tons of money.
Yeah,
I mean, to the point where
and a big market.
They're not even taking the TV money.
But they're just not. I
mean, they have so many donors.
Great market, but I just
again,
there's no brand. I just don't. No. 1982, maybe. Not now.
Well, that's what this has become. And this is something where I have hardly ever watched it, but a couple of times I saw the show. The Mark Cuban's on it. Shark Tank?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. And Kevin Leary's on there. And he's invested in a lot of businesses in his lifetime. He's very, and he's very picky, very shrewd as to which ones he goes with. And a big part to him is the brand. And this goes back to the early 2000s with Guido D'Elia. And Guido would talk to me about, because we'd be standing at practice. And we'd be chit-chatting about branding. I said, Guido, explain branding to me. This is, we're going back 22 years, whatever. And I said, explain branding. I said, what's the importance of branding? And he went through the whole thing with me. When he was done, I completely understood what he was talking about. Right? And I've thought about that ever since. And I do discuss this with my broadcasting class all the time, especially when I'm talking to them about social media. I said, you're at the point in your lives and your career where you're trying to establish your name and your performance as a brand.
Absolutely.
All right? And that's why, and I tell them about the responsibility they have with social media because of the brand. You don't want to be the hothead on social media that gets into Twitter fights with people because you are the known entity. And in the end, I said, the only person that gets damaged is the known entity. I said, that's your brand. I said, that's why I tell them that, I said, you have to be responsible with it. Now, I said, those moments you get emotional about it, is that resist the moment to send. Just say, you know what, the heck with it. This isn't worth it. Because in the end, your long-term goal is to be in this business a long time and to move up in the business to get to the point where you want to be. Right? Doesn't necessarily mean where somebody else thinks you should be, but where you want to be. And that's the brand part of it. Well, now let's get to what it means on a university level. When we were going through all the TV deals, with USC, UCLA moving, then eventually Oregon and Washington, I didn't talk about markets. I talked about brands. Right? It is obvious that the market in Los Angeles is gigantic and makes a big difference. But what makes the big difference is that USC is bringing a home run brand to the plate, where now you're looking at the major brands of the Big Ten: USC, Penn State, Ohio State, Michigan. These are the heavyweight brands that you're aching to get. When they made the move in the SEC to bring in Texas and Oklahoma, they brought in two heavyweight brands. They did not sit there and expand to Kansas and Kansas State, with all due respect to Kansas and Kansas State. But in football, they brought in two of the biggest brands they could bring in. Well, the same thing in the Big Ten. They brought in USC, which brought with it UCLA, which is an excellent secondary brand. There are tiers of brands. And when you're looking at like a secondary brand, to me now a secondary brand is Nebraska. Secondary brand is Wisconsin, is Iowa. I think to a point, Michigan State.
Yeah.
Okay. And UCLA is in that group, right, of that secondary brand. I think that Washington and Oregon teeter between the top-level brand and the secondary brand. They're right there in that middle area between the two.
Oregon more
Oregon
so,
in particular is closer to a top brand than
I
Washington is, even though Washington played in the national championship. But remember, Washington has to replace everybody this year.
Yeah, and they've not had that.
Jed Fish is now the head football coach. Danny Sprinkle is now the head basketball coach. And
they've not had that consistency at that level either.
Right.
They've got to reach that point. Oregon has.
Right. And Oregon over and over again has done it, even though they're the smaller market. Remember, they're the smaller market between the two. Washington is Seattle, and the university is actually in Seattle. Right. Meanwhile, Eugene is, a couple hours south of Portland, and Portland's a good size market, but not it's not even the category of Seattle or Los Angeles. So that's why I've talked about the brand part of it. What they bring to the table. What Rutgers and Maryland brought to it were households back when we were thinking about the cable part of it and about the footprint. And when you go into the footprint, the Big Ten network, the number triples if you're in the footprint of the Big Ten as opposed to not being in it in terms of what you pay for it on your cable. So during that time when we were thinking cable households, Rutgers and Maryland at least provided that. Nebraska provided a Big Ten championship game because it was the 12th school, and now you were able to get money from that. But now it's all about brands. And when you sit there and look at the brands that are out there and remaining, there are not many desirable brands remaining, and that includes the ACC. What is the brand of Georgia Tech? I mean, Georgia Tech does not light up anybody. The market is there. So they check the market box. But you are correct in saying that what Georgia Tech, that the Atlanta market is serviced very well by Georgia. Okay? And they don't need Georgia Tech in there. They don't. Okay? The Florida market is one that is rich because of the population growth there. So now you have Florida State and Miami. And Miami, by the way, is now an AAU school. So keep that in mind. Florida State is trending in that direction, but they aren't there yet. Once again, that is not going to be the be-all, end-all in the room, but it is a discussion point in the room. It is a discussion point, and don't think it's not, because it is. And what do they bring to the table branding-wise? Well, Miami is not one of the 18 schools in the top that brings in 50% of the TV rating.
No.
Florida State is, and from 2016 to 2023, Florida State's total viewership, I think, was 14th, something like that. It was very good. Clemson was a little bit ahead of them.
Yeah.
I think Clemson was 11th and Florida State was 14th, something like that. Penn State, just for reference, is number 6. And if you're wondering who won it's Ohio State.
Ohio State.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So they bring that part to the table. But the way they have conducted themselves to get to this point on being a breakaway team, a breakaway school from the ACC, the way they've conducted themselves would not enamor me if I'm sitting in one of the chairs. That would not enamor me. I'm like, well, who am I bringing in here? They're going to complain about everything that we do around here?
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Right? In other words, every time we do something, they're going to be the ones jumping up and down. Like, I mean, do I need that problem? I mean, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Right? I don't care what anybody says. Well, we've had to do. You had to do what? Okay? You signed the grant of rights twice.
Sure.
Right? Not once. Yeah, we signed it once back in 2011, 2012, whatever. No, it came back up in 2016. You signed it again. It's like, okay. Just making sure we got the timeline straight here on that.
Right.
But that would come into question.
Mm-hmm.
No, if I'm sitting there in the ACC, they brought in Stanford, Cal, SMU.
Right.
Okay? None of them. Okay, in fact, I think the ACC has actually gone down in prestige because they brought them in. I don't mean academically, for obvious reasons.
No, yeah. No,
but it's gone down in football and basketball prestige.
Has,
and basketball, too. I mean,
Cal's a lot worse. Yeah, you're right.
Cal, Stanford. I mean, SMU's the best of the three in terms of performance on the field or the court. Although SMU just fired Rob Lanier. And they just brought in Andy Enfield. Right. But so that's why you have, for example, in basketball scheduling, Pitt is trying to do everything they can to upgrade their non-conference schedule. You want to know why? Because their conference schedule doesn't give them enough to get to the tournament.
Absolutely.
That's the problem. Yeah. They feel like they need to get some domino net out there from a non-conference schedule to help them. And that's what they're looking to do. So the brand part of it, right? It doesn't mean these aren't great schools. Georgia Tech is a great school.
Sure.
It's not a good school. It's a great school.
Absolutely.
Right? But we're looking at this in terms of what is the perceived brand of your football team and the perceived brand of your basketball team. Right? Doesn't light people up. Pitt is a very good school. They really are. Mm-hmm. They are a very good school.
Yeah.
Right? But football, they're okay. Every time you look around, they don't get big national games. Right? No. You look around at a Pitt
they get
game,
one a year.
Right? You look around at a Pitt game, and one of the problems they have is the color of the seats at the stadium. Seat color at the stadium is a gigantic problem for them because it is obvious.
It's clear as day. There's empty seats. Yeah.
Right? You're looking like a lot of yellow seats available. Mm-hmm. And now I realize why they're that color, because of the Steelers. Mm-hmm. But it's a problem for Pitt because when you're on TV, you can't do a wide shot. And the attendance at the Peterson Center has gone down. When they were in the Big East, they were selling out the Pete all the time. You were like, hey, they're in the ACC now. They're going to get Duke and North Carolina. Well, you only get them once in a while, every couple of years. Right? You're not doing home and aways with them.
No.
And what's happened is the attendance has gone down. And they're not considered to be the must-see brand on TV. They're not in the 18-team 50% group, and they're not. I think they're 49th in total TV audience. 49th in total TV audience from 16 to 23. That's a problem. This is brand perception we are talking about.
Yeah.
Not market, brand. And that's been, to me, a big part of this. What brands have you brought in? When the Big Ten expanded, USC, UCLA, Washington, Oregon, they brought in desirable brands. Texas, Oklahoma, SEC brought in desirable brands. Okay? Now, the Big Ten cobbled together Utah, Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, to go with Houston, Cincinnati, UCF, and BYU. Okay. And the ACC brought in Stanford, Cal, and SMU. Okay. The other ones are all about hanging on. Houston is an excellent basketball program and a good football program, but as a brand, really? UCF? Cincinnati? I'm talking about the brand of it now. Right. If you're the Big Ten, would you want Cincinnati in the Big Ten? If you're the Big Ten, do you want UCF in? I mean, if you're the Big Ten, do you want Houston in? And if you're the Big Ten, do you want BYU in? No, what do they bring to the table? I mean, I'm telling you, you have to be able to bring something to the table. You have to have the ability. Let's go back now, right? Talk for the 1,000th time. He's going to talk about the pie again. Okay? The pie is X big.
Right.
Okay? If you expand, okay, right now I have 18 slices of pie, technically 17 because Washington and Oregon are splitting it.
Yep.
I have 17 pieces of pie. Okay, so the next TV contract, it's 18. Right, so because it'll be a full share for each in the next one starting in 29, 30 or whatever it is, or 30 or 31. Okay? Everybody has a slice. Everybody has an equal slice. Now I bring in, let's just say, hey, that's great. We're going to bring in Florida State, Miami, and Notre Dame, and whatever. Okay? Now, if I don't get more money because of who I bring in, now I have 22 slices of pie, and guess what the slices are? Because I didn't bring in more money. Well, the slices are now smaller. Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Now if I bring in, when they brought in USC and UCLA, the timing was perfect for them. Because they knew that their grant of rights and their TV contract would be running out on August 1st of this year. The Big Ten was in the process of going through, was it 2 years ago now? 2 years ago.
Yep.
Right? They were in the process of negotiating now. Remember, Kevin Warren had hinted strongly that they'd have something to talk about Memorial Day weekend 2 years ago. Well, Memorial Day weekend came and went, and nothing was announced. That's because suddenly the USC-UCLA thing was entered into it, and they went from slicing up 14 pieces of pie to now 16. And guess what USC and UCLA's presence in the negotiations did? It made the pie exponentially bigger, and everybody was able to get a bigger slice. Even though there were more slices, all the slices were bigger. Oregon and Washington will do the same thing when they do it, because I think this is going to work out. Now, how it's going to work out for men's and women's soccer, women's volleyball, softball, baseball, we're going to have to see, because I haven't seen a schedule for anybody. Mm-hmm. I haven't seen it. They are, especially men's and women's soccer and volleyball. Last I checked, they were fall sports.
Yep.
Okay. Just over here in the back, like any time now. It's like, come on.
Some years we wait till October for a wrestling schedule.
Yeah. And last year was what, September?
It was the end of September.
For basketball?
Yeah.
I was surprised by that.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
Especially with the TV deals they have. Yeah.
Yeah, I was surprised by that. So I don't know how long this is going to take, because you have to be able to sell tickets.
Yeah, absolutely.
But my point about when people get all wrapped up in expansion, it's the brand that means something.
Sure.
And what comes to the table, there's no doubt, for example, at Florida State, that the front man is Michael Alford, the athletic director, but he is not the decision maker.
Right.
Okay? The Florida State Board of Trustees, that's where the decision makers are. It's not the president, and it's not the AD. The AD is the front man. He's the one speaking, so on and so forth. But it's the Board of Trustees that are running that show there. They will not be able to, they have to declare by August 15th their intention to stay in the conference, which they will. Because they have to have a place to play.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? In fact, I think with all the lawsuits and everything, the earliest they can make any kind of move is 2026. That's the earliest. But they're going to have to come up with so much money. And if I'm the ACC, I'm looking at them going, hey, you signed it. We're done here. Yeah, we're going to keep fighting you in court. Go ahead. They're going to need private equity all over the place to come up with the money to get out of this thing. Now, do I think they'll eventually get out? Yeah, they'll eventually get out. And it's actually behooves them a little bit to have it whittled down a little bit to make the numbers smaller. But right now, attorneys are getting rich off. But it's about brands. Stanford's brand is, hey, they're great in all these other sports. Okay, no offense. Okay, Stanford is winning national championships in a lot of sports, which is great. I'm thrilled for them, for their coaches, for the pocket of people that are excited about their sport at Stanford. But you've got to be able to move the needle in football and basketball to be desirable to go in, because those are the brands, especially on the football side, that make all the difference in the world. Stanford in football does not excite people. Cal in football does not excite people. SMU in football does not excite people. It just doesn't. The number of people have already said to me, oh, I'm trying to figure out a way to get out to Los Angeles. I got to go to that USC game. Exactly. And it's going to be a while before Penn State plays at Oregon, but it's going to be the same thing. I can't wait to get out to Oregon. I want to see that place. Exactly. That's what you're looking at. I mean, you have people going, hey, I can't wait to go to Berkeley. No. And by the way, I have done 2 basketball games in Berkeley. So
never been to Berkeley.
Yeah. I'll tell you right now, that explains the protest signs I saw on the front lawn when I was there.
Right? That could be.
Right. I was like, who is Jason?
Yeah, I'll tell you.
I said to Girardi, who's Jason? It's one thing about you. You seem to bring a lot of universal love to the table.
I'll tell you, all the time.
Tony Knob tomorrow, we're going to discuss private equity. We're going to discuss how it works. Now, look, private equity, okay, we talk about Red Lobster. I'll tell you an area where private equity has not worked. The newspaper business.
No.
Okay? Private equity has dramatically hurt the newspaper business. Private equity hurt Red Lobster. But there are a lot of pluses on private equity. Again, you've got to be able to go in with, all right, with a sense of purpose, control, and strike a deal that's good for them, because you want to be a good partner, but is good for you. And it's not just the dollars that make it good for you. It has to be the right kind of partnership. And there are a lot of good ones out there. And people don't realize there's private equity in the Yankees. Okay? A lot of people don't realize that. Okay? You know, people always see the face of the team. Oh, it's Hal Steinbrenner, the owner. There's private equity in the Yankees. Okay? But they're part of it. It's just, that's what they are, part of it. They're not running it. Which explains why Aaron Boone is still the manager. Just kidding. Look at you, all happy, fat, and sassy. You know, Robbie Thompson running your baseball team, doing so well.
That's right. Doing well.
Right. Kyle Shanahan not knowing the rules.
Not figuring out the fourth quarter, but other than that, doing great.
Hey, I've been told by the TV people he's a genius.
Well, hey, play calling he might be. Adjustments, not so much.
Oh, you're just so cruel. You're just so cruel. I mean, it's just,
play calling, a lot of people get wide open. He is a genius there, but the other stuff I'm not so sure on just yet.
God. You know what we're going to do? We're going to get him on the show, and I want him to evaluate you.
That's right. Well, hey. There it is.
All right, that's what I want. I want to evaluate you.
There we go.
Yeah. All right.